Good afternoon, YouTube. So we're down to 70 days until the SHSAT, the New York City Specialized High School Admissions Test. Hello, my name is Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. My email's at the bottom. I'm a tutor for a whole bunch of specialized tests, including the SHSAT, and especially the SHSAT. So just kind of touching base with you guys again, seeing what's going on. The 70 days. The first SHSAT, there's a couple of days of SHSAT testing. The first one, I believe, is Saturday, October 26th. And there's maybe 4 or 5 other dates. There's one on 2 weekends. There's one during a school day, and things like that. So there's days set aside for grade 8 and grade 9. There's a day set aside for kids with an IEP or a 504, things like that. So just trying to touch base, making sure everybody is kind of getting a ballpark on what this exam is about and where they're going with it themselves. By now, hopefully you started studying some of your topics. You really want to make sure that you're acing grade 7 and grade 8 material, and then even further on beyond that. But if you're not acing grade 7 and grade 8, you have to start from there at least, so that, because you can't be getting the harder problems if some of the baseline stuff is still fuzzy. All right, guys? So be studying. And be studying in a consistent fashion. You can't study today and then not again for another month. So you should be setting aside certain time, once a day, once a week, whatever you do. Just make sure you kind of stick to it, because the test is hard. A lot of people say it's easy. It's not easy. It's a hard test. If it was an easy test, everybody would be passing it and there'd be no problem. There would be no controversy. The schools are hard, the whole shebang. There's lots of rigor involved in this kind of testing. So what you want to do is make sure you're studying consistently, and hopefully you've done at least one practice test by now. And what you're trying to do at this point is find out your strengths and weaknesses, and identifying areas that you're strong on, identify areas that you're weak on. For some of you, there's actually brand new topics that you never saw before in your life. So those you need to start out again from the get-go. Why is this popping up? It looks like my stream just died. I'm not sure how or why. Well, I'm still in the corner. Why is that happening? That is very weird. Okay, in any event, I'm just going to keep going because something somehow freaked out in the video. All right. And there's still a little Fireside running along the side there. We're going to go for a few more minutes anyway. This is just going to be a 5 or 10 minute chat. So again, the SHSAT's in 70 days, so start pacing it out. So we're talking about 9 or 10 weeks at this point. Again, some of you who might be doing it the next week have about 10 weeks. It's enough time to pace it out, especially if you didn't do anything yet. Start. Now is a good time to start it and just pace it out. So you're going to be figuring out which parts you're strong on, which parts you're weak on, identifying them, finding out brand new topics that you never knew about at all, and finding problem areas about that. Again, the SHSAT is split into a math part and an English part. The English is very hard. It's harder than the state tests. Both sides of this is harder than the state test. In fact, it not only is it harder, but it's testing things that the state test doesn't test. So you definitely want to, at the worst case, be familiar with this, and at the best case, go through a whole bunch of practice examples. On that note, if you don't have the SHSAT handbook for the 2019-20, you can pick it up on the Department of Education school website. You can also go to a family welcome center and pick it up. Just make sure you're not wasting a lot of time doing all that. If you go to schools.nyc.gov, into enrollment and click on specialized high schools, there's a link to a PDF file that you can download. Now that said, try to do the handbook as one of your last things that you use, because the handbook is the most official one, and there's no other official source of this stuff. And even the handbook isn't the actual test. These are not past tests. Even the handbook has SHSAT-like problems in it, but it's written by the same company that produces the test. So you want it really from an authentic source like that, all right? So the problem is if you do the handbook immediately right away, then all the other problems are not from the Department of Education. So you want to do it in reverse. You want to pick up some of the standard books like Kaplan, Princeton Review, Barron's. They're not perfect, and there's a whole bunch of problems with them, but they're starting points. And what you want to do is get familiar with the different things. Again, you want to hone down your strengths and weaknesses, find areas that you never knew even existed before, and then try to understand the structure of the test. The math is broken down into a grid-in part where you answer questions and you bubble in the numbers, and the other part of the math part is a bunch of bubble-ins based on multiple choice answers to problems. Problems range from algebra to trigonometry to geometry, the full gamut. Again, within the context of, say, grade 8. There's also a grade 9 test for entry into grade 10. It's more accelerated. It adds more things. It adds more geometry. It adds more algebra. It adds more things like quadratic equations and so on. All right, so that's why you want to get familiar with it and find out the premise of what's going on here and the kind of style that the test is set up to do for you. All right, and then just start going for that. You also want to have, at this point, figured out where you think, what specialized high school you think you'll want to go to. So you should be consider making those considerations as well. All right, and doing research about how far away it is from you, how much of a problem it would be to get there and back, especially you're going to be going there for 4 years. You may have a big commute. Think of super hot times, summer times, winter times. If you're in Staten Island, you may have to take the ferry. There's a whole plethora of different considerations you have to have here. And then pick out maybe the top 3 you want to go on. By the way, so there's 2 levels here. You have the general high school entry, and you also have the specialized high school entry. There's 8 specialized high schools plus LaGuardia. The other 8 take the SHSAT, and then there's all the other 12 choices. There's a bunch of permutations going on here. And by the way, yesterday the mayor announced that there will no longer be a round 2 of the high school admissions process. That does not affect specialized high school entry. Okay? As well, the high schools and middle schools will now begin to have a waiting list. Again, that will not affect specialized high school entry. He's only referring to non-specialized schools there. All right? The specialized high school entry is specifically about the SHSAT, and that's the only choice. Your grades in your class don't matter. Only this one test matters. All right? And even start doing research on the top 3 schools you're interested in going to and finding out different things about it. How big it is, what kind of classes it has, whether there's college, AP Now classes, College Now, AP classes, and the whole set of it. Brooklyn Tech has majors. Stuyvesant is very math-based, so is Tech, and so is some of the others. Lehman is more academic and English-oriented, things like that. So find out what these schools are about, what their makeup are, because you're going to be there for 4 years. You want to be with a group of peers that you're going to have friendly competition with and learn from each other in addition to learning from your classes and so on. All right? So what else can I just say here? What the 70-day things? Get your thinking caps on and just try to get yourself in order and make sure things are going smooth and okay. All right? So again, practice. If you haven't started practicing, do it now. Even if you're the smartest kid in the city, you still want to be familiar with the test. You don't want to get questions wrong because you're like, whoa, where did this come from? It's one thing to master a topic, but these questions are not just about mastery of a topic. They're about combining different features and putting them in unique, novel ways and getting the kids to think about problem solving and things like that. So the test is interesting in its own right. So what you want to start doing as well is thinking about pacing yourself as well. The test is 3 hours long for most kids, and most kids actually don't get to finish the test. So you have about 1.5 minutes to answer each question, whether it's math, ELA, whatever. And the ELA is split up. I was talking about how the math was split up before. The ELA is split up into revising and editing, which is split in half itself, and as well as reading comprehension. And it's like nothing your child has ever saw before. So this is definitely something you want to do. And just remember to enjoy this process. A lot of people get stressed out and start freaking out and studying to the point of passing out. That's not what this is about. Do your studying smart, do your research smart, and approach this as the next journey in your life that's fun and enjoyable. All right. If anybody has any questions, please email me. I'm available. I have a whole bunch of other YouTubes on here about the SHSAT and also general topics that will apply to the SHSAT. I also have some streams where I actually list the different things they're going to ask you about. The topic lists for math, the topic lists for English, and I also go through actually some past specialized high school samples, the test, and there's all that. So check out my channel. Please like this video, subscribe, and have a great day.